because I started going through puberty at the same time as I was going through menopause at 30. Yeah, I knew pretty much my whole life as long as I can remember. Like being potty trained as a kid, it's weird that I remember back this far, but I remember standing in front of a toilet trying to pee and just peeing on the floor, and my mom lecturing me. I have 3 older brothers as well. Or I remember a time, Easter, because we're in southern Ontario, we would always be like outside Easter weekend in spring, kites and stuff, and I never wanted to wear a shirt. My mom was like, you need to start wearing a shirt, girls wear shirts, those kinds of things. So we always fought back and forth between that. I wasn't allowed to cut my hair until high school, and then I shaved my head, and then I had a mohawk for, I don't know, 15 years or something. So it was kind of kept going. I only really ever dated women. I had the same girlfriend pretty much all through high school. Yeah, just kind of always known. And then I didn't really know anything about folks that were transgendered until I moved to Vancouver. And then when I first moved here, I had a few people ask me, they're like, oh, so you're trans, right? I was like, I don't know what that means. They're like, well, you're a guy. And I'm like, yeah. And they're like, but you're born female. I'm like, yeah. And they're like, well, that's what trans is. And I was like, sounds like a lot of work. Like, I'm just gonna go back to wearing a mohawk, dude's clothes, and like dating chicks. So I'm like, that's what I'm sticking to what I've been doing. Yeah, so when I was younger, menstruating was really bad. I would get sick, super pale, vomiting, passing out, etc., which impeded on school and work, etc. So it just kind of continually got worse. They tried different things, putting me on pain medication. They tried to put me on the pill, which made me, basically, I bled for like 6 months straight. And I was probably 80 pounds, you know, so I had to be on iron, just complications after complications. By the time I hit 19, I wanted a hysterectomy. I looked into it. My parents were fine to sign off on that. Of course, they won't let you do that at that age. Fast forward to Vancouver, learning about what transgender was, eventually deciding, going by he, him, going by Ryan. It took me a while to decide that I wanted to be on hormones. I used to be a singer. I write music. And also I didn't want to be super hairy. I kind of like the fact that I was very youthful, Peter Panish, and like that's just who I am, you know, like very energetic and charismatic and cartoony, and I'm like, that's who I am as a human being. So I wanted that. I just wanted to look more boyish than I already did. Because I'd had so many issues before with my menstruations, the doctors talked to a surgeon and they wanted me to have a hysterectomy right away. So I got a call within about 2 months. So I started off on a very low dose of hormones, of testosterone. And then they called me about a histo and I kind of panicked a bit. I'm adopted, so I don't have any blood relations. I've never wanted to have children, like give birth or be pregnant at all. But the options, you know, of maybe saving eggs or having my partner have the child, etc. And then all of a sudden I had like a week to figure that out. So I canceled my first 3 appointments. And then the doctor that I saw said because I had so many complications beforehand, it might not work trying to save eggs. Super expensive process, might be to no ends. So then by that point I just got fed up and I was like, fine, let's just do it. So they did a full hysterectomy, laparoscope, bioptic, something, blah, blah, blah. There's a huge name for it. But they take out your uterus, your cervix, your fallopian tubes, and your ovaries. So just, as I just call it, the empty room. It's just an empty room in there. So everything shifts around. So that causes complications as well. But what happened is I came out and my parents were really supportive at this point. So they had flown out. My 3 brothers were here. It was for Easter, so April in 2008, 2 or 3 months after I started hormones. So they were all here and decided to have a dinner party, which was interesting, like the day I got out of the hospital. But they were supportive, so it was great. So for 4 or 5 days, I was surrounded by family. extremely constipated, like, and huge and uncomfortable, but mentally was in a good space. They left, I went back to my place. I didn't have a partner at this time, and then within days found myself lying on the bathroom floor, suicidal, depressed. So I called one of the 1-800 numbers. I got in with the therapist like within 2 days. And by then I was like back to happy-go-lucky. He seemed fine. He's like, oh, it's like postpartum, you know, like could be menopause, like after surgery. And I was like, what do you mean? And he's like, well, you're going through menopause right now. And I'm like, oh, well, I hadn't really thought about that. As transitioning, I'm like, oh yeah, I'm a man now. I'm like, wait, what? But no one had told me anything. Like, I mean, depression after a major surgery, obviously, I should have had somebody checking in on me. But also, it went from, you know, the hormones at a low dose compared to with the estrogen, it's kind of balancing each other out. And then eventually what happens is that as you increase the testosterone, it overpowers that when it starts like your body changing, your voice drops, facial hair and stuff. But what happened is my testosterone levels were so small, and then having the full surgery, so there was 0 estrogen like within the day, and my testosterone was so low that it like forced me into full-on menopause right away. So yeah, and then you know, I also got like the hot flashes really bad, super moody, but I didn't get moody to the point of like, you know, you'd read about a lot of women get emotional and cry, but then when you start testosterone, I don't know what it is in testosterone. It's like tears don't come. I had a whole new different perspective of teenage boys when I did testosterone, from like hard-ons to not crying to being grumpy and aggressive, because I started going through puberty at the same time as I was going through menopause at 30. So yeah, it was like hot flashes and like boners. All I wanted to do is eat steak and hump everything, but then also I was sad and like suicidal, but I had lots of energy, but I was depressed. So I was like really bipolar. Originally, I was on injections of testosterone. So I would do injections once every 2 weeks, and then I went to once a week. I hate needles, so I was always making somebody else do it. And then after a while, it just got frustrating. If I was a partner and we were like fighting or I was in a bad mood, I'm like, I don't want you to come near my butt with that needle. So I went to the patch. The patch doesn't really work. I finally went on to gel. So it's a gel that I put on every morning with it's got hormones in it with alcohol, and it just absorbs into your skin. But that balanced everything out now that I take it every day, because what was happening is even if I was taking the shots every week, your testosterone levels go super high and then they go super low. So then they get low, I start to hit menopause again. I'm cranky, hot flashes, night sweats, can't sleep. I think in regards to trans or non-binary folks, I think mine was a bit different than most people, because like having a full hysterectomy right away, I don't think they do those now. Most people I know, it'll be like just their ovaries or just their uterus, etc. It's not everything, so there's not as much of a dynamic switch there. But I think it's just like asking questions, making sure that you have like friends around or people that check in on you, because I mean, we've all been depressed at some point, and nobody wants to reach out when you're depressed. If you're on the couch and watching bad TV or laying on the floor or drinking, or if you're doing substance abuse or sleeping, or like, it's hard to reach out for help when you're in those stages. So I find if somebody, you know, if you do check-ins, I do that a lot with a lot of the folks that I know that are going through those things. You know, just a daily text to be like, hey, just checking in, you know, like thumbs up or thumbs down, you know, or like, do you want me to drop off some ice cream, or do you want me to come by and just sit and watch a movie? Like, and I mean, I think especially, like I said before, it's like, I do know a lot of women like my age and older that are going through that, and the same thing. It's like everyone's bodies are different, so they're always going to be changing, right? So your symptoms may not be all the same, but it's more of like the actual changes that you're going through. Like, we're all going through changes, and just knowing that you're not alone while you're doing it. So keeping the conversation alive, constantly doing research, and just communicating with each other. Um, Eventually, I think that the medical industry gets more information, more research, and takes it more seriously. Like, especially even with menopause with women, right? It's like, let's be honest, a lot of our medical industry is usually male dominated. And so, Viagra, God knows we don't put $1 gazillion into Viagra because everybody needs a blue pill, but menopause, meh. Give her some ice cream and some coffee. She'll be fine. Like let her go have some drinks with her friends. So it's like we still see that, and the same thing with the medical industry. With gender and sexuality and stuff. Like it's only in the last 5 years that we're really starting to find anything out. So, not a lot of people are as lucky as me that researched it or were confident enough to take those steps forward or to make their own decisions, being guided by, science that wasn't there, by medical people that don't know what they're doing. So I think it's just doing a lot of research and keeping communication alive. And yeah, hopefully the medical industry just finds better ways of dealing with individuality and not just symptoms.
Thanks for watching this episode. For more menopause stories like this, subscribe below and don't forget to click the bell so you are notified when we drop a new episode. Did you connect with this story? Let us know by adding your comment and by sharing and liking it. Shared storytelling helps us learn what's happening to our bodies and reminds us we are not alone.